Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup. I hope everyone is safe and sound and healthy and keeping indoors and not going crazy and watching lots of good TV and film. I wanted to start this out and just talk a little bit about how this pandemic is going to affect our industry, and at least my little thoughts about it. There was a really gloom and doom article on Deadline.com that came out this week, basically of how we will have to sign away our lives, really, to work on a show and come in an hour early to be tested every day, and how craft service is going to be affected. And it really was very, I thought, irresponsible of Deadline to put out there, because to me, it didn't seem whoever wrote the article doesn't work in our industry. It's just seemed like the worst case scenario for all of us. And I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't. I think whatever our new standards will be, it probably won't be forever. So we will have to deal with it. And then once there is some sort of vaccine or however we're going to get through this, I think, gradually our day-to-day lives of production will go back to normal. I think, yes, absolutely, we're all going to have to keep our distance from each other. But I don't really know how that works in TV and film and how we get things done, because look, my guys are in a truck picking up furniture all day. They're not going to be 6 feet from each other. There's like 3 or 4 of them in the truck in the cabin together. That's not going to happen. The offices that we have, sometimes, I'm lucky not on the current show, but sometimes I have 4 people in an office that's a 10 by 10, and I'm not kidding. We are like sardines sometimes, and people in trailers and the makeup trailer and people on set who sit next to each other all day. I guess they got to space out. I video village. I don't know how that works. I'm glad that I don't have to figure it out, but it's going to affect me and you if you're in this business. And so we better start thinking about it. This article also went into like our insurance, and I don't know. It was pretty a downer. I mean, a friend of mine, Denise Pizzini, was commented to me and some friends about it and said, she was very positive and sort of, this is a time we'll get creative, and maybe this is, we won't be doing 6 locations a day, and, we're going to have to change the way we make film, and it'll just make us more creative. And that's a positive thing. Maybe it will make us more creative. But the reality, too, is when this article says only 1 saw per person, that's not how sets are made. And that really made me think that this person doesn't know how our jobs really are. So I also think that we are below the line. And that's pretty essential to, they can care about us and our unions can get involved in everything, but it's the actors who are really going to dominate how this is affected in our day-to-day. If they're going to get tested every day before they come to work, I don't know how that would work in my department. My buyers start out in the morning like at a prop house, or we don't start on the lot every day, or I start out at a location dressing. And even if you have a fever one day, you might not have it the next. Or let's say 2 of my buyers have a fever. Well, then what am I going to do? I'm not going to be able to find replacements for that day for people to work. It's really, these situations are real, and I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not coming to you with an answer right now. I'm coming to you with a lot of questions of, I don't know, and sort of hypothesis of how we can get this done. But I know for sure that it's going to come down to the actors and what standard they put forth of how they're going to want to work. And then it's going to trickle down to us. And that's what I believe. That's my 2 cents there. So, I have heard that my show will start up mid-May and hopefully start shooting mid-June. I don't think that that's going to happen, but that's what they're hoping for. And, I know a lot of people want to get back to work. So I'll hope for that too. So again, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope your mental health is staying fit. And knock on wood, everyone in my family is staying healthy. I'm secretly loving this time off with my twin boys. So it's a tough job. It's a 12-hour day thing, but I love it. I'm watching a shit ton of TV and film when they nap or go to bed for the night. But that's work. Wink, wink. For those of you not following Decorating Pages on social media, I've started a weekly bracket of the best production design winning films or nominated films, and I'm going by decade. So far, I've done the 20 teens and The Great Gatsby one. In the 2000s, Avatar took it home. In the 90s, Pleasantville pulled through. That's awesome. And in the 80s, Brazil. And then this week was the 70s, and Star Wars took it home. I gotta say, the 70s had the best movie poster design, I think. The cartoonish effects that they had in there and the color palettes, it's really, really unique, and it really has a time stamp on them. You can find the link to vote on these brackets on the homepage of decoratingpagespodcast.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. You can't get away from it. So next week is the 60s, so I hope you vote, because that should be fun. Along with this, I'm watching winning and nominated films that were nominated for Best Production Design A to Z. So far I've revisited A, All the President's Men, B, Batman, C, Color Purple, D, Darkman, Gandhi, Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte, and then this week I watched The Irishman. So I'm just writing little blogs of just a remembrance of that production design, and some of these films I've never seen. So it's a fun little project to watch, and these are just beautifully designed films that are bringing these stories to the screen, and it's very inspiring. I also am getting, it's getting a little costly, to be quite honest, because I keep buying the movies that I don't have or can't find. And I love Amazon Fire, though. I mean, it's like 2 clicks away from any movie you want. It's crazy. It's crazy. I love it. Other than that, what's one I'm watching? Everything. I'm watching everything. I finished the 3rd season of Ozark. I did Tiger King under protest because I think it's ridiculous and I think it's bad for animals. But I loved The Morning Show. I'm watching Making the Cut, which I think is really what Project Runway should have evolved to. It's like the grown-up version of that. I mean, they're finally giving away real money. They're up to like $1 million. They're in Paris. They're like traveling to other fashion cities. It's like, that's what Project Runway should have evolved to. I'm sure Heidi is very proud. I'm watching Little Fires Everywhere, which I don't know what this shit is with Hulu, and it's like 1 episode a week. Just give it to us all. We're inside. It's a pandemic. Just give us the whole thing. I'm okay with it. I think the production design is fantastic, Jessica Kinder. The story is, I don't know, but I keep watching it. I finished that last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think it's the funniest season that he's had. I finished How to Be a God in Central Florida on Showtime. We just finished Tales from the Loop, that's on Amazon, which is kind of like a Twilight Zone, but it's also, I don't know, it was sad. I mean, I keep trying to find like happy shit to watch, but I keep getting all these sad shows. I'm gonna start Unorthodox, and I'm gonna start Castle Rock, and I watched Bombshell this week. So, and my friend, prop master Gabe Perillo worked on that. If you haven't heard her episode, it's really good. She talks a little bit about Bombshell in that also. It was good. I could not take my eyes off of Charlize Theron. I mean, that makeup was so impressive. It was, and then she got her voice all like Megyn Kelly. It was good. And we finished Catch-22, which is why, I'm not really into war stuff, but I watched it because on this episode, we have the production designer, David Gropman. Now, if you are watching anything great and can recommend it, I'm all in for recommendations. You can email me at kimwanup@decoratingpagespodcast.com. There's a link through the website too, if you don't want to type it in, and hit me up. And also, if you have any suggestions of nominated or winning films for my A to Z, I'm open. I'm such a dork, man. I'll watch anything. I'm up for your suggestion. On this episode, I speak with production designer David Gropman. I reached out to David in January to talk about his ADG-nominated TV show Catch-22, which is on Hulu. Now, trying to coordinate interviews at that time was pretty hectic. Everyone was sort of working and trying to get it in before the awards. You know, people are busy. So they were like, try me later. I hope I can do this. Fingers crossed. So I reached out to him now, thinking maybe you have some time. And luckily, he did, because he's amazing. And to be honest, it's a pure joy of mine to do this podcast and being able to talk to someone who has inspired me, which basically is everyone, which is that makes me really lucky. I've always looked at other people's work and been so impressed because there's just such creativity, and I don't ever think of this stuff. I don't know if anybody looks at my work and says, well, I never would have thought of that. I doubt it, but I know that these production designers, these people in the industry, these set decorators and everyone that I get to talk to, I'm just truly inspired by them. Now, I obviously watch a lot of TV and film. I've always been like this. And there are a couple movies that have always stuck out to me that every time it's on, I watch it. One of them being Reversal of Fortune. I don't know if you've ever caught that. I can never stop watching that movie. I love it. But another film that I love is called Once Around. It was in the early 90s, and it's Holly Hunter and Richard Dreyfuss. And it's a cute little story of a woman who's like lost in her life, and she falls in love with this eccentric older man, Richard Dreyfuss, and her dad is Danny Aiello, and it's just a fun little movie. And the wedding scene when they're dancing to Fly Me to the Moon just makes me smile, and it was like I wanted my wedding to be like that, like just that happy. I don't know. Anyway, to my surprise, when I'm looking up David Gropman, he did Once Around. I mean, my stomach dropped. I got butterflies. It was, And then I'm looking at it. He did Marvin's Room, Waiting to Exhale. He did Doubt. I love Doubt. That's another one of those movies when it's on, I gotta watch it. And those are just my dorky favorites. He is the production designer of Life of Pi, The Cider House Rules, Chocolat, August Osage County, Fences, Hairspray. I mean, it's unbelievable. This guy works. He has 51 projects in 38 years. He has 2 Oscar nominations for Life of Pi and Cider House Rules, 2 BAFTA nominations, 8 Art Directors Guild nomination, and 2 wins, Life of Pi and Chocolat. He was in Italy scouting for his upcoming project, Talented Mr. Ripley, when this pandemic started. And so I'm just glad we got this guy to safety, because the talent there is unbelievable. So I hope you enjoy this as much as I did. At your last 15, I was like, oh wait, they're all New York. There's no way he's doing
you asked about Date Night and One Fine Day.
Yeah.
And both of those were LA-based pictures. We shot the bulk of those both in Los Angeles, and then
oh my God,
I think on One Fine Day we had I think maybe 2 weeks in New York. I can't remember on Date Night. I don't think it was much more on Date Night. So
that's fascinating, because there's such New York location based runaround films.
Yeah, I think that's what we do, right?
Oh well, yeah, I know. Well, hey, I'm always impressed with us. So I always think that's the most impressive thing when someone's like, "Oh, what hospital did you shoot at?" And I'm like, "No, that's a set. We built that." Or that's the most impressive thing. Like, gotcha. That's
gotcha.
No,
that's what. Well, yeah. That's what you hope for.
Yeah.
You hope that that you sort of you found a way to sort of represent the world that the audience doesn't have to think about it. They're just in that place.
Yeah. And the escapism of it is really important sometimes. And sometimes the sets are such characters that it's such a tremendous responsibility to pull that off.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
I mean, I have to say one of the trickiest things was one of the most challenging things I thought initially was Hairspray, because they were determined that we weren't going to shoot in Baltimore, and that we were going to shoot in Toronto. And as I always do, my riff is well, that's fine, but I'm not going to go to Toronto till I've been to Baltimore and figure out what it is that we're looking for. And so I think they gave me 2 days in Baltimore. It was kind of it was very whirlwind. And then we went up to Toronto, and it was uncanny how much of that architecture I could find in Toronto. All of that, the fake brick, the fake stone facades of the building were sort of typical in Toronto. We found that great intersection with the tram tracks, where we shot all of our big exterior commercial scenes. We found that amazing 1960s high school. That's what really grabbed me more than anything else. It was such a great piece of architecture, and it felt so perfect. So
it's funny how Toronto pulls off a lot of cities, because I know they shoot Philly.
Yes.
They shoot Philly in Toronto a lot too. For that, and I forget, someone else was telling me. I know a lot of things shoot in Pittsburgh. But it was some other. A lot of New York City is shot in Toronto also, and.
Yeah. There was a time. There was a time before you were born, Kimberly, when the tax rates were so great in Canada that I literally worked everywhere from Newfoundland all the way across to British Columbia. I worked every part of that.
But then country. The Canadians. They woke up and they were like, why are we working for less, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why it took them so long to figure that out. Why
I worked there a lot, actually. but not so much anymore.
No.
Now
Well,
it
now
seems to be mostly Europe.
you're all over. I mean, I should say I'm so thankful that you got out of Italy when you did.
I have to say well, we have a couple of wonderful producers on that project, but a line producer by the name of Diana Picorni, who I've done a number of films with, and we've been friends for years. So it was just great happenstance that she ended up being line producer on Ripley. And there were two Americans. I mean, I had been in Italy since November. I was there November, December, not January, and then February and March. And she kept, so there were two Americans, myself and a location manager that I worked with a lot by the name of Charlie Harrington. And she kept calling and saying, are you guys feeling all right? I mean, if you want to come home, you just say so, and we'll bring you back at any point. And I just,
So you are prepping. You're prepping at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very early. We were very early, doing very, very early scouting of locations. There's over 200 locations in the film, and about a dozen stage sets. And so, and it shoots in, we were going to be based, we will be based in Rome, but it shoots also in Venice, Palermo, Naples, the island of Ischia, and on the Amalfi Coast. Wow. So, like, the scouting was, I mean, we're pretty much done with it now.
Well, I mean, the scouting is basically you're drinking wine and you're eating pasta and you're looking at gorgeous Italian cities, right? That's my kind of tech scout.
A lot of jumping back and forth and, and trying to keep everything straight in your head. And,
right.
So, so we were there, and she kept saying, well, you could come back if you want. We'll bring you back at any time. And we were, no, we're perfectly fine. And Charlie, I've done 2 other films in Italy, and Charlie did both of those with me as well. And then Monday, March 9th, I actually got a couple of emails from friends in the States saying, we hear that all of Italy's been locked down. And I said, well, that's news to me. And I literally into my apartment that day. I'd been 3 months in a hotel, and I literally moved into my apartment that day. I went out and bought groceries. I called the guys at the studio, and I said, I'm going to be in a little late. I just have to get everything all set up so I don't have to worry about when I get home. And they said, we're kind of thinking maybe today we're going to work from home because one of the guys' wives was on Mission Impossible in Venice and had a bit of a fever the night before. And he said, I think maybe, we should not be in the same room. Why don't we just work from home? So I said, all right. And then that evening, they announced that all of Italy was going to be locked down. And Diana called me and she said, you're on a plane tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Okay, so I packed up. I have an office full of books and supplies at Cinecittà, which are sitting there. I have all of my clothes, because I was going to be there for over a year. Right. All of my clothes in the apartment in Rome, and here I am. So.
And so, luckily you got out. And I mean, as far as my show is concerned, they would like to come back mid-May, and they would like to start shooting in June, but I have no idea. And I mean, I don't even know with Italy of how you even work that. I don't know how we do it.
I don't, given our work where it's about a community of anywhere from 200 to 300 people at any given time. I don't know how we're back to work this summer.
I don't know either. I don't know. And when I got an email saying we'd like to start shooting mid-June, I just thought well, are we all going to just wear masks? Are we, and with set dressing and art department, the construction, you're all working all my guys are in a truck all day together. And then we all come home, and I'm not there. I'm not solid on that this has passed and we can all just go back to work.
I don't think So
I think we have to
ask quite yet.
I think and I think my other really thought is, first of all, I'm glad I'm not a producer and I don't have to figure this all out.
Yes.
But how does that work with actors? Or like, say you had another project lined up after this. Like, how does that all work? Is it just like, oh, everything just gets pushed, or oh, that's not going to happen because you had this, you were starting something else in October, and now it'll overlap. Like, it's a mess. I think it's a mess. I think it's. I'm just glad I don't have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm sure all of the studios are wildly anxious to have content, but.
Well, I think that's a good thing too, though. If anything, everyone's watching TV. I think everyone's watching everything that we've done, and there's so much now to bite into. But I don't fear that our world is going to be affected. Thank God, knock on wood. I think it'll get back as soon as it can, and I think our industry will be fine because of all this and the slowdown, and then all of the outlets we have to produce for.
Yeah, I know. The world has changed. I mean, the world of film production has changed enormously, from the time I started. One of the hardest things for me is a director that really likes to talk through concept. Because, I really, I'm much more comfortable sort of getting to know and understand a director, even personally, having nothing to do with the project, and to be as much a part of their mindset that we don't need to talk about what the film is going to look like. I mean, I should just be able to become those eyes and that inspiration that he has. There's I have worked a lot with the director Lasse Hallström, and when we were doing the movie The Shipping News, a key element is the greenhouse, and it's described as the greenhouse. And at one point, Lasse said to me, "Oh, David, what color green are you thinking of?" I said, "Oh, Lasse, something that, it kind of, it's green, but you look at it and you don't have to think about it being green, like that." And because we have done so much together, he accepted that. Other directors might want to see, some colored chips or something.
Well, I always...
You just hope that you're smart enough to just get it right.
Yeah, I always say, like, I used to, when I first started, thought, this is such a weird process because I don't have any interaction with the actors, and it's their character, and shouldn't they have input or whatever? But as I have learned, we create this environment, and we are on a lot longer than actors are usually, and in prepping this.
Right.
But I used to have a little I still do have a fire in me with DPs and them moving lamps and moving, they're moving the furniture instead of moving the camera, and it always sort of really bothered me on one show that I was on, and I used to, and I said, listen, I'm not going to touch, you don't want me to touch your camera, so you don't touch my set dressing. Just trust that this is the environment, like, this is what it is. Like, I don't need you to tell me, I don't need to move, I don't need this. Just shoot what's here. I know that never happens. But it's a point of like, look, I'm not going to go up to an actor and give him notes on how to read the line. And I'm not going to tell the director how to shoot it. So I do get very protective of, like, once the designer and I have, like, established the set, the protection there, and sort of I have justification for the decisions that I've made.
Well, that's a fight you can wage.
Yeah.
You can't always win it.
No, and I don't half the time, because then I'm, we're off to the next 30 sets.
Right.
And it's really up to that on-set dresser.
Watching out for you.
Yeah. Watching daily sometimes is painful, I would say.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
yeah.
But yeah. But you
So,
were. Wait,
yes,
let me ask you this. So you have a background in theater.
right. So I started as a theater designer, and like I was designing sets in high school, and and
So you
I
knew
mean I
this was
was
what you wanted to do.
well, you know what I wanted to be an actor, of
Oh, yeah.
course. What, are you kidding? No, I wanted to be an actor, but I had some talent for art as well. And so by the time I got to high school, to college, I realized that, being an actor was not really a profession, and I was going to pursue my art. And I got to San Francisco State, and a friend of mine from high school in Los Angeles, who was also in theater, said, "Oh, there's this great design teacher here. You should take a set design class." And it never even occurred to me that that was like a discipline.
Mm.
It was just something you had to do to help out. so I went and I asked about taking the class, and he said, "You can't take it as a freshman." And at any rate, I said, "Well, can I audit it?" And he said, "I don't know, not really. That wouldn't really work." Anyway, somehow I got him to let me audit the class. And then that was it. And then I just became a set designer. And then it was time to go to graduate school. And I applied to Carnegie and NYU and Yale. And
Small schools. You were into small
somehow I got
schools.
into the Yale School of Drama. So then I was stuck. So, and I spent 3 years there, every year saying, "I'm not coming back. I just want to go out and design sets." And but I did finish. I met my wife there, Karen.
Wonderful.
Pardon?
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And we moved to New York together in 1977, and we both had pretty long careers in the theater and doing, starting with off Broadway as a regional theater, and then Broadway, and then in 1980, I believe, 79 or 80, Robert Altman decided that he wasn't going to make films anymore. He was going to be a theater director, and he moved to New York, and he did a set of one-act plays off Broadway, which went pretty well. And then he decided he was going to do a play on Broadway called "Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean." And he was interviewing set designers, and I got the job.
So your first job was with Robert Altman and Cher.
Well, no, I mean, I've been doing Broadway before that. But
I know, but that's a hell of a start.
Yeah. But well, Cher and Kathy Bates and Sandy Dennis and Karen Black and Sudie Bond and Marta Heflin. It was pretty amazing. So we did that on Broadway, where it was a fiasco.
Oh no.
And then a sort of very persistent producer asked Bob if he would do it. I think we did it for Showtime, as a matter of fact. It must have been for Showtime.
The Five and Dime?
Yeah. We were going to do it for, as a kind of adaptation for television. I mean, sort of, the idea was to shoot the film for television. Yeah. And Bob said, but he shot it in an 8mm film, and because it was always his intention that it would be released theatrically. And so we built a set in a little, garage on the west side of, Hell's Kitchen. And then the film was very successful. And, to this day, it seems to have a following, and it was re-released. They had done a reprint of it not a couple of years ago, and played at Museum of Modern Art. And anyway,
That's
how I got
I
started.
looked for it to see if I could try to watch it, just because I was interested of like, oh my god, like this is how do I not know about this one? It wasn't on Amazon right now, but I definitely want to see it. It seems interesting. I mean, it's almost like a dream team, and then they're honoring Jimmy Dean, right? They're like super fans, like people are with
Right.
Elvis, and they like get together, but it's a story about them. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And then,
Yeah.
oh no, go ahead.
No. So anyway, go ahead. You guys.
Oh, I was actually going to go off on like a little tangent but I did find the Whatever Happened to Baby Jane that you did.
Oh my god.
And I started to watch a little bit of it, but just to try to like see some stuff. But I was like, oh my god, the Redgrave sisters did Baby Jane. This is fantastic. They really got into it. That makeup was like, it was fantastic.
I don't think I've seen that since it first aired on TV. Yeah. How did I end up doing that? I'm not quite sure. But it was, Vanessa Redgrave is one of the actors that really had opinions about what her space should look like, including a rocking chair in her bedroom, to which I said, but she's paralyzed. I don't know if the rocking chair is going to tell the story, but what an amazing experience to work with those two actors.
Yeah.
And John Glover, who I really love, and a really lovely director, David Green. So, and, they were really willing to bring me to Los Angeles, California to do it, so.
But a lot of your projects have the thread of they were plays or musicals. Like, do you seek those out? Or do you...
Well, I don't. But, I...
But you're the guy? Are you the guy for that?
Well, the thing is, I love being the guy.
Yeah, I think you are the guy. I mean...
What I really, really love doing are plays like Marvin's Room, August Osage County. I just did a film version of the play The Humans, all which take place in one set. And to me, that's like the best, because you have to work so hard to tell the story, to make it, to not let it feel like a stage adaptation. And you get to focus so much energy into this one thing.
Yeah.
It's really delicious, as opposed to, doing a film, or mini-series with 200 locations in 1960. But the thing is, partially happened is producer Scott Rudin. And Scott Rudin knew me from the theater before I ever did film. He gave me two of my, two films back to back that I did with him, which were just wonderful films for me, Searching for Bobby Fischer and As It Completely Goes Out, and Nobody's Full. And then after that, Marvin's Room. And so that was the first play I did for Scott, but Fences was for Scott, and Humans was for Scott. So he has sought me out to do a number of these adaptations, and like I say, it's something I love doing. The only musical I think I've done, tell me if I'm wrong, is Hairspray. And Hairspray was just really, really great fun.
Well, wait, was Center Stage? Was Center Stage?
Oh, yeah. I guess I don't think of it as a musical, but I guess it is.
Well, and Little Children, of course, is a musical. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Little Children is not a musical.
No.
That was but a film that I'm very proud of.
Oh, I read that book before it came out. I love that film.
Yeah, the book is amazing.
I love that author, which his name escapes me, but I think he had like 3 or 4 good books around that time.
What is it, Tom?
P, begins with a P. Panacek? I don't remember. I could run in the other room. I don't know if I have that book anymore. Well, let me ask you this. With films
That's the thing, by the way. Before I was doing stage plays, we did a whole raft of film based on novels. And I really missed that and didn't get back to that till 2 years ago when we did Catch-22, and now when we're doing Ripley. The Count and Mr. Ripley. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What? I was just gonna ask one thing about the plays. Had you seen the plays before you designed the films, or no? You don't want that?
No, I had never seen Doubt. I had never seen Marvin's Room. Never saw Augusta Osage County on stage. Had never seen The Humans on stage. There's a couple more in there. No. So, which I think, for me is good, to not be influenced by what was done on stage.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't want to. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to do it because I would fear that I would hang on to something and then try to duplicate it, or get hung up on, oh, they did it better than I did. So, yeah. Can I ask what the color green is in Doubt? Because it's fantastic.
So that's, so first of all, green is my favorite color. It just so happens. And,
green is the color of geniuses,
Well, I didn't know that.
Do you know that when when smart people pick cars, they usually pick the color green?
Well, that's interesting. We've had a lot of green cars.
See?
It's kind of my favorite color because I do believe that that in the background on a wall that it has a kind of depth that not a lot of other colors have. A lot of colors might just sort of stop your eye right there. And to me, green, just, you go into it. But so at any rate, and because we're going to be doing schoolrooms, green was kind of, institutional green was kind of a logical color for that. But for Meryl's office, I was working with the director, the playwright, John Shanley, and we were kind of looking at greens, and Benjamin Moore is my favorite paint. We looked at my Benjamin Moore book, and he said, no, none of those seem right. And he had the color chart that they use, for camera tests.
Yeah.
And he said, what about that green? And on the top row, I think about 4 in, there's a really, really good green. Dark but intense green. And so that was it.
That was it.
I had the scenic artist match that up, and we painted in those walls. And I love it.
I love it. It stands out to me. It stands out so much as that room, those tall ceilings. And that color, and then the cross on it, or her blinds, and the action in the room is just, it's such a great background to everything that happened, all the discussion.
And I have to say, since we're there, beautifully dressed by Ellen Christensen, who I've done several films with, and but I've worked with Susan Boda, Deborah Shute, Stephanie McMillan in the UK, and Anna Pinnock. I don't dare leave anybody out. Some really, really, really wonderful set decorators. So, and Ellen did a fantastic job on that.
So, when you do films that are, well, I want to ask about Catch-22 because I just burned through that in 2 days. It was so good. I had never seen the original. I hadn't read the book, but I saw it and thought, man, this is. I saw that it was shot in Italy and just kept thinking, like, where do you get all this period stuff, or where do you resource that? And then I thought, well, maybe it's Italy. Maybe they still have it hanging around. I don't know.
Well, you know what? All of that, all of those, all of the vehicles, all of the Jeeps and tanks, all of those were in Italy. They were American. They were all left behind, and they had a big compound there. The tents, so, on that, you might have seen I had two amazing set decorators, Anna Pinnock from the UK and Alessandra Corsola from Italy. And Alessandra is doing Talented Mr. Ripley with me now. And Anna had been my decorator on Casanova in Venice, and Alessandra was her assistant on that. So I knew Alessandra, but I have to say, when I've been in Europe, Anna's always been my first call. And Catch-22 was so big that she said, well, what if I were to split it with Alessandra? So that's what they did. So a lot of I think almost all of the tents and all of the kind of gack came from the UK. They built an enormous amount of furniture. All of the tables and benches in the mess hall, all of the desks and sort of cabinets and stuff in the offices. They built all of that.
Did you build the plane?
No, so the plane was actually a B-25, which the shell of a B-25 in a museum, excuse me, being restored in a museum in Belgium. And they said that they would let us use the shell if we kind of created the whole interior and give it back to them in better condition than we left with, then they sent it to us with. So that's what we did. And initially it was, we broke it into two pieces, the nose, then the fuselage, and then we had to build the tail section that breaks away. And initially we were going to pull off some of the skin of the plane so that we could have kind of camera portals. At one point we were going to build the whole fuselage. So
it just seemed to me, because your camera, they're in that plane so much, and the camera's in with them, and the angles and everything. I thought, oh, they must have built this and took off panels and just, I don't know how they got the camera in there then.
So this is the genius of George Clooney and the cinematographer Martin LaRue is, the conversation that all of us had. We built a model so we could kind of talk about what we would need to do if we were going to build it, and then we all finally just said, if you pull a section for the camera, where's the point of view? How do you tell the story? Because where's the claustrophobia? Where's the experience of being in that plane? So that was all shot in that fuselage. And the only time the camera was outside the fuselage, the plane itself, is when it was, when they were in the cockpit. We might pull a window and the camera might be right in the window. But there were any number of scenes where Martin was like sitting, in the nose of the plane looking up at Chris Abbott. But I think that was the best possible way to do it.
Oh, absolutely. It
mean,
does give the viewer such a, like, inside this cooped up little thing, and, this is all the amount of room you have. You could only even just move your arm just a little bit. I mean, it was really close quarters there.
There are even shots where I think that it actually looks a little bit more, a little bit larger than it is, because I spent a bit of time inside that plane, and you're crawling around on your belly to get into the nose of the plane, and it's really tight. It's amazing work, and that the last episode with
the last episode was rough.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, the last episode, I thought it pushed a line the second to last episode, because I don't want to give anything away, and I was like, oh, look at this. This was shocking. And then that last episode, I just thought, why would anybody be this guy's friend? I don't know, I'd be like, hey, that guy, he's the last man standing kind of deal. I don't know if I want to be his friend.
Yeah.
But just a really good story. It makes me want to watch the original just to see, like, Alan Arkin, because I saw that he's in it. I loved him, so I don't know.
It's remarkably different.
I bet.
It's remarkably different. And, I remember seeing it when it came out, and, everybody, whatchamacallit, Mike Nichols was on such a ride. And it was I remember it being a real event.
And so how long were you there for that shoot in Italy?
That was 8 months. Wow. 8 months. So, but the shoot itself was just, I think, we were 60 days, I guess. Is that right?
Is that it? For 10?
No,
six,
that was
6 episodes.
6 episodes.
Yeah.
I think it was a 60-day shoot.
Wow.
Yeah. It was tricky because, I haven't done a lot of television, and I've never done a limited series. And I've never worked with 3 directors at once. And so that was... It wasn't that was
fun.
Not,
it's fun.
And especially when we were on the base, which was like, 10 acres of set where you could, we easily could have 2 things going on at the same time and sort of like running back and forth. That was
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you had second unit constantly getting like flyover shots or like this or background or It
was a little like that was the trickiest part. Designing it was a great joy, and the hardest part of the design was all of the planes, and we had 2 working B-25s that had to stand in for a fleet of 80. So, and sort of just following, the nose art on each one and the aging on each one. And, then in addition to that, we had 2 transport planes. We had the Messerschmitt. So I had like a wonderful team of 2 guys, and that was that's all they did was deal with the planes and tracking the planes. And because of that, they also had to do the aftermath of the bombing and sort of track down all of those elements. And that was, we had about 3 days to put that in.
Oh my gosh.
And then they had to take it out. Yeah. That was ridiculous.
Isn't it crazy? I always love, getting projects and then like the things that you have to research. Like, I bet you never thought you'd be researching, like, warplanes and, like, No,
it was my first World War II movie. The research, there's no question. That's the absolute best part of what we do.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's that's the most fun.
I'm happy, because I was 2 weeks away from starting shooting, and I had 5-6 weeks prep. So now I feel like I got all this more prep because I'm still researching things. They shut down my
Right.
credit card, but like I'm still like filling up carts of stuff like to buy as soon as we start up again. And
Right.
so yeah, I feel like this is what it feels like to have an enormous amount of prep. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, for the most part, I know we had a really generous prep on Catch-22, and we have a really generous prep on this, on the Talented Mr. Ripley right now. And
So have you seen the Matt Damon one? Did you see that?
sure, yes, yeah. I
love
tried, like, I mean, I was very, very, very good about not watching it again. And then I think, where was I? And then I recently watched it, but this was after we had done all of our location scouting, and we're going back to the same. Revisiting some of the not the locations, but the areas that they were in. So I got a little nervous that, I did not in any way, and nor did the director, want to repeat anything from the film. So
It's it's Italy. How can you not? When you're in Venice, and you obviously don't want to avoid like St. Mark's Square or
right.
you can't. I don't think they own that. I feel like it's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
All those big ones. If you haven't watched Catch-22 on Hulu, it's really good. It's kind of like a dark humor war movie, and George Clooney's really good in it. I was so interested to hear how they had shot all the cockpit scenes, and they're in this airplane a lot, and some really good scenes in there. So I'm really glad he shared that with us. And also, really good to hear his thoughts on the pandemic and, all of our experience of how this shut us down. I have some upcoming interviews with other designers and buyers, and just showing how this all affected each and every one of us in a different way. We'll get through it, but it is an experience that I really like hearing how people are getting through it. I have part 2 of this episode with David, and he talks more about the cider house rules, about his experience on Life of Pi, which is an amazing story. And he also talks about my favorite, Once Around. So I hope you catch part 2 of David Gropman's interview. So you're listening this long into the podcast. I know you like it, so go review it. Just click that little 5-star, write a little review. It's like 2 seconds. You can do it. It's on iTunes. It's fun. It's fun. Decorating Pages podcast is sponsored by Stogie Floaty. Float 'em if you got 'em. Luxury pool floats. Get yours now at stogiefloaty.com.
Welcome to Pro Tips for the Pros, brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads. In this series, we'll explore essential advice for professional contractors to deliver outstanding renovation results. Let's dive in. Keep the work area clean and organized throughout the renovation process to create a positive impression and minimize stress for the customer. Regularly clean up debris and dust to maintain a safe and comfortable living environment. Thank you for joining us for this pro tip on planning thorough renovations. Stay tuned for more expert advice brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads.
A lot of people tolerate ordinary. Ordinary bathrooms, kitchens, entryways. Well, not on your watch. If you're a pro, you've got a new partner in town. Floor & Decor. From tile to wood to stone, Floor & Decor has more styles and job lot quantities of Schluter, Mapei, Laticrete, and other brands pros trust. Come see a whole new way to wow with Floor & Decor. Coming soon to Bailey's Crossroads.